Yo, welcome back. This month's segment is going to be on everybody's favorite Texan man, the Engineer. If you're unaware, this is a shortened version of my two-part ranking every TF2 weapon plus fun fact videos. It will have all the same information but broken down by class, as I believe the first one was almost 2 hours long and the second part was about an hour long. If you've watched the original videos, it isn't required to watch this one unless you want to specifically see Engineer content. This video will include general descriptions on how I feel about the weapon, a grade ranking, and a couple fun facts as well. Without further ado, hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. The Eureka effect. The Eureka effect, which was added on December 15th, 2011. The Eureka effect is such a weird item. It has some cool play to it, being able to engineer behind the enemy team and get out of dodge in a pinch. The only problem is that its ability is niche and is often not worth using over something like the Jag, Stock Wrench, Gunslinger, or even the Southern Hospitality sometimes. Overall, this is a C-tier wrench. Trivia. This wrench right here has had a very strange history, to say the least. When it was added, it only had 2 stats. Alt Fire, Teleport, Spawn for the downside of being unable to pick up your buildings. That's it. And no, I'm not actually forgetting anything. The ability to teleport to your exit teleporter wouldn't be added for nearly 3 years. It was finally added July 2014. In that update, it also got the ability to pick up buildings, though it had some new downsides to replace it. The downsides they added? Repair and upgrade rates have been decreased by 50%. Yeah. This meant you had to use double the metal to upgrade and repair buildings. You could just teleport to spawn and pick up some ammo, but this took a long time and made it setting up just kind of a hassle. In Gunmetal, they would change it once again. All the previous downsides were removed, and they made it where the construction hit speed boost was decreased by 50%, as well as a 50% less ammo from pickups and dispensers. This meant you didn't have to keep running to pick up ammo, but it took forever to set up. It still had the same problem. In the Meet Your Match update, the Eureka effect would be changed one last time. For the better overall, the 50% less metal from dispensers and pickups was lowered to just 20%, as well as adding a new teleporters cost 50% less stat. This was the same update that reduced the teleporter cost from 125 to just 50. This lowered the value even more from 50 to 25 per teleporter, allowing you to build a sentry and the teleporters in the same full ammo pickup. The Eureka effect has stayed statistically unchanged since 2016. Oh man, the Frontier Justice added July 8th, 2010. The Diamondback, but for Engie. One of the best Engineer primaries for most situations. Engineer has some great shotguns, but this one is truly a fantastic one. It pairs great with the Gunslinger, being able to rack up a few kills with the mini-sentry, and then having some 180 damage buckshot ready to go for whoever comes in your path. It doesn't have to be used with the mini-sentry at all either. It can be just used with the normal sentry as well. This weapon is truly an S-tier weapon. Trivia. This weapon has not gone through any actual stat changes, except for one kind of. At one time, the Frontier Justice lacked a crit cap, meaning you could store as many crits as you got kills. This was capped at 35 the literal next day on July 9th, 2010. The Gunslinger, added July 8th, 2010. Annoying to play against, but fun to use. A good way to play more fast-paced battles Engie style. The health bonus is also a nice touch, A tier. Trivia. The mini-sentry has gone through a plethora of changes. For example, it originally built much quicker, being around the speed it is now when you wrench boost it. However, it originally could not be wrench boosted. You also used to get metal from destroyed minis, as well as minis starting at full HP rather than half. The mini-sentries have gone through so many changes, it's hard to list them all. Second, at one point, it was actually possible via an exploit to build a level 3 mini-sentry, but this was not intended and it was patched pretty quickly. The Jag, added December 17th, 2010. The Jag is a wrench that trades out some damage and repair speed for a quicker setup. It is also a good definition of a side grade. Some claim that this is better than stock, but that's really up to you. Personally, I find that the stock wrench is better to use, but you can easily make a good argument for why the Jag might be better. With that being said, B tier. Trivia. The Jag was a very simple weapon on its creation, offering a 30% construction speed for a little less damage. it would become the staple of Engie wrenches when it received a faster swing speed, allowing it to remove sappers quickly and repair buildings extremely fast. It pretty much is unchanged since then, however, it does now take 3 hits to remove a sapper rather than 2. This was made to just balance it out a little bit. The Panic Attack, added December 22nd, 2014. The current Panic Attack is not that bad, but it's often overshadowed by the class's other shotgun options. Pyro has the flare guns, Soldier has the banners and boots, Heavy has the lunchbox items, and Engie, while it's a bit more practical, has the Frontier Justice and Rescue Ranger. This weapon is often just left in a person's backpack to collect dust. C tier. Trivia. Alright, history time, because there's really no interesting tidbits about it, so basically I'm just going to share the weapon's history. The original attributes of the Panic Attack were much different and kind of weird. It originally worked like a budget's beggar's bazooka, where you would start at 0, load up all the shots, and then release them in rapid succession. This weapon was not very good. They would eventually fluff up the numbers a little bit, like the reload and switch speed, and add the ability to store shells rather than automatically firing once you reach 4. Oh yeah, by the way, it originally had a secret clip size penalty. This did not fix it. It would need a complete rework, and it got one in the Jungle Inferno update. Working like it does now, firing in a fixed pattern with 5 extra pellets, and having a spread that increases for each successive shot until you stop firing or until you reload. Though, when it was initially changed, the weapon was still not that good. The spread would get ridiculous and the damage penalty hurt. It originally was 30%. Finally, in the Blue Moon, the max spread was reduced by 40% and the damage penalty was lowered to 20%, making it easier to use and actually being able to take advantage of the extra pellets. The pistol, added October 10, 2007 with the release of the game. The pistol is just a nice, simple secondary. There are better options for both Scout and Engineer. Scout has things like the Mad Mill, Pretty Boy's Pocket Pistol, and Winger. Engineer has the Wrangler. Still not bad, just a whatever option. C tier. Trivia. Remember how on the Flying Guillotine trivia portion I talked about how every weapon was automatic except for one at one point? Yeah, it was this one. The pistol originally was not automatic. Holding down the pistol would fire really, really slowly. In order to get the max out of it, you would have to tap fire like a semi-automatic. This would be changed in 2009, so now it doesn't matter if you hold it down or you tap fire. Let's get through this one quickly. The Pomson 6000, added December 15th, 2011. This weapon's buns, terrible projectile speed, minimal damage, the cloak and uber drain is insignificant, not good. D tier. Quick facts. The Pomson's projectile used to penetrate enemies. The damage used to scale from 42 to 62, now it's 32 to 72. This weapon has a secret 34% clip size penalty and about a 30% slower firing speed. It also had cool concept art for the projectile. And we're done. The Rescue Ranger, added December 20th, 2012. This is a must-have if you're an Indian player. In casual though, it's still a very good option. While it may not be as dominant as it once was, it is still a very good utility item for making sure your buildings stay up and running from a distance. High B tier. Trivia. Here are some minor facts in somewhat rapid succession. 1. According to the wiki, there's some unused lines of code that suggest that the Rescue Ranger may have been able to place buildings from afar and not just pick them up. 2. The bolt originally didn't cost any metal to heal your target, now it's a 4-to-1 ratio. 3. The bolt originally healed for 50, then it was up to 75, and then lowered down to 60 as it is currently. 4. Long-range pickups used to cost 130 metal, which meant you couldn't do 2 pickups on 1 max metal reserve. 5. The bolt's base damage used to be 35, now 40. This meant a random crit did 105 damage, which is now 120. 6. The sine wave on the little scope attachment will peak higher the more metal you have in your reserve. The Short Circuit, added August 18th, 2011. Hate soldiers and Demoman constantly spamming rockets and pipes at your stuff? Use this item right here and just delete the goddamn things. This weapon's really odd. It's really worth using as the Wrangler exists, but it's not bad by any means. Very useful on stuff like Last Point and the end of Halo maps when there's a bunch of soldiers and Demomans shooting rockets, stickies, pills, cannonballs, whatever else at your stuff. But personally I can't find much utility for it. And engineer mains may disagree with me, maybe they can find more use for it than I can, but overall it's a C tier item. Trivia. This one's a history segment. so it's going to be a long one. Get ready. The short circuit, like the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, mentioned in the last video, has gone through many changes, having a hard time finding its identity. When the weapon was released, it wasn't like what it is like today. It used to only have a primary fire, and that primary fire cost 35 metal and would destroy any projectile that it hits with its projectile electrical field wall thing. You know what I'm talking about. If you're playing at the time, you know what I'm talking about. That was it. Very simple, very straightforward. It remained this way for a little while, until July 30th, 2013, when they made it cost 36 metal to fire, but if you actually destroyed a projectile, you would only lose 18 metal. They also slightly increased the firing speed by 25%. It would stay this way for about 5 months, until they did the unthinkable. Many players at the time may remember when this thing was absolutely ridiculous. The metal consumption was lowered to just 5, regardless if the projectile was deleted or not, so it was 5 always, and the attack speed was sped up immensely. It's the same as the current primary fire, but it could delete projectiles, and it only cost 5. So this thing was just stupid spammable. That didn't last super long. By January 9th of 2014, the damage was lowered. It now consumed 15 metal per projectile, and for some reason it couldn't be fired underwater anymore. Not completely sure why that, but I guess it makes sense, but it's kind of weird. It would stay like that for 1 year and some change. In gunmetal, they changed the short circuit again, adding an alt fire that cost 15 metal and had a 0.5 second cooldown. The primary fire now does what it does currently, just being a small electrical beam that really doesn't do anything. Finally, the short circuit can rest. Not so fast. Another year later, it was changed again. The base secondary now costs 10 metal regardless, but lost an additional 5 metal for every projectile that was destroyed by its electrical field. In addition, you could no longer pick up buildings while the short circuit was deployed. This is still a stat today, by the way. Thankfully, the constant sway of rebalances and changes would end on March 28, 2018. This is when we would get the energy orb that costs 65 metal and destroys every projectile near it. You get some small bug fixes, but overall, it's the same as we have now. Long history. One extra fact for you guys. The short circuit has a 90% damage penalty against buildings. I believe it's listed at exactly 93%. That is completely omitted from the stat line. The shotgun, added October 10th, 2007. The shotgun is TF2's bread and butter. It is one of the few games to do shotguns right. It feels powerful, but isn't blatantly overpowered in any way, taking 2 shots for lighter and medium classes, 3 for soldiers, and 4 for heavies. The shotgun is often thrown out in favor of other items pretty quickly, and for the heavy it does kind of make sense, but with the other 3 classes, Engie, Pyro, and Soldier, I actually find myself coming back to the shotgun a lot because of its reliability. B tier. Trivia. For all classes before September 30th, 2010, they had a slightly different reload speed. Heavy even had a completely different reload animation. This was standardized to get rid of any variance between the classes using their shotguns. And then specifically for Soldier, the current buff banner Juggle Taunt used to be the taunt for the shotgun, until the shotgun received a new taunt in the War update of 2009. The Southern Hospitality, added July 8th, 2010. This wrench exists. It doesn't do much, but it exists. It offers the niche ability to detect spies, but even that isn't great since health kits remove bleed, and Spy's Cloak reduces the duration to approximately 2.5 seconds. So you better find them quickly. As many people say, you're better off using the stock wrench or something and just hoping for a random crit. So, C tier. Trivia. This weapon has gone completely unchanged. The only time it had a stat change was for a short time of 1 whole day during the Hatless update, where it, as well as every other weapon that has the no random crit penalty, was changed to a 25% damage penalty. The Southern Hospitality could crit for 1 whole day. It was reverted quickly along with every single weapon that had this change besides the Power Jack. The Widowmaker, added August 18th, 2011. The Widowmaker is an interesting design for a shotgun. Using your metal supply for ammo is a neat concept, plus the risk-reward of losing metal versus net gaining metal is a fun dynamic. The Widowmaker can definitely be used effectively for continuing assault against whoever it is you're in combat with, and not having to reload is a great bonus. It's overall a good weapon. B tier. Trivia. First, the Widowmaker is a promotional item received for pre-ordering a game called Deus Ex Human Revolution in August of 2011. The Widowmaker is based on the shotgun from that game. The only thing that's missing is the little hand grip near the front of the barrel. Second, when the Widowmaker was released, it lacked the risk-reward dynamic that it has now, and it was just a risk. The metal return on hit was still up to 60, though cost per shot used to be 60. So at best, you could break even. This was changed to just 30 in October of 2011. The Wrangler at July 8th, 2010. Oh man. The Wrangler is one of only 3 engineer secondary options. Though even if engineers could use any other class as secondary, this one would likely be near the top, if not the most used. Having control of your sentry with increased firing speed and a damage shield is just insane, and it's hard to pass up. Obvious S tier. Trivia. The Wrangler has had a long history, a decently long one at least. Though it could be summed up in a few words. What were they thinking? It originally had a better accuracy at range, no damage fall off outside of the sentry's range, and could be repaired at the normal rate, even if it had a protective shield up. It was reduced by 66% later on. Though it did get one buff, technically, rather a revert. From 2013 to 2015, the Wrangler's shield would only take 1 second to disappear after an engineer's death, before being changed to the normal 3 seconds again in gunmetal. There have also been some other small changes, such as how damage should ramp up and fall off work, rather being tied to the sentry rather than the engineer, as it originally was. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Bonus trivia. First, a level 3 Wrangled Sentry has effectively 359 health. 2. I mentioned this in the Gunslinger portion back in part 1, but the Wrangler was involved in helping you build level 3 mini-sentries. Twice. This happened twice. And last, when the Wrangler was added, there was a weird bug that allowed you to team kill. If you shot rockets at a teammate with the Wrangler and quickly destroyed the sentry via destruction PDA, so it's a very quick sleight of hand, you could kill teammates, even on servers without friendly fire. Likely had to do something with the rockets no longer being tied to a team because the sentry was destroyed, but honestly, I don't know. Here's a clip of it in action, made by Richard Bobo. The Wrench, added October 10th, 2007. The Wrench is simply baseline. It is my personal pick the vast majority of the time, unless I'm specifically playing Battle Engineer. You really can't go wrong with it. B tier. Trivia. Not specific to the Wrench, but when TF2 was in its infancy, players were unable to level up buildings past level 1, with the exception of the Sentry, so teleporters and dispensers. In addition, teleporters used to cost 125 metal to build rather than 50. I guess this has more to do with the PDA, but I'm not ranking the PDA, as there's only one PDA, right? So I'm just mentioning it here. 2. While it's not the default wrench itself, the wrench has 2 gold variants. The Australian wrench is the one most seen today, though for a while it was possible to craft a golden wrench, starting July 1st, 2010, preceding the engineer update. The gold wrench predates Australiums by about 2 years as well. The wrench was a little more piss yellow than the current Australiums, and it turned people gold, but overall it looked pretty cool. There's so much history about the Golden Wrench that this video would be unable to do it justice. I recommend you go watch a full video about the Golden Wrench after this video. It's full of controversies, dramas, and so much more. Super cool.